Fam Jam, how are we today? This video I am going to be talking about why I chose South Korea all those moons ago when after I had graduated university and gone to get my TEFL certification in Prague, and what made me decide on South Korea. So in university, in the middle of university, me and my family had moved cities and I was trying to find a job. So I was just pounding the pavement and I found this really nice Korean gentleman who owned a liquor store here in town, and he hired me right away and we really developed a good relationship. He was super sweet and super nice, and I worked for him for on and off summers and Christmas vacations while I was in university for 2.5 years. And then the summer before I finished university, we were talking and he was just like, so you're finishing school, what are your plans afterwards? And I honestly had no idea. I was pretty done wanting to be in school at that point because my second year I got really sick and I actually had to cut down on my classes because my immune system was so affected, and so I could only do 3 courses a semester instead of 5. So I finished a little later for my degree, but we were talking and I told him, like, I honestly don't know. I don't know what's out there. I don't know what to do. I don't want to go on to my master's because I have my degree in psychology. But yeah, I didn't want to go for my master's, and going back to school for anything else was just not in my mind. I was so done with school by that point. I was just like, get me out of here. I wanted to work and I wanted to travel because it had been ages since I had traveled since then, and I just wanted to get out. So he said, why don't you teach English in Korea, in my home country? And I had never heard of this before, so I did a preliminary search and it looked like a really good idea. So I finished university, then I went to get my TEFL in August of 2011, and I was an educational assistant here in the city that I live in for a couple months and just applying for jobs. At that point, I was also looking at other jobs in places like Japan, China, Vietnam, Thailand, but South Korea was really on my mind. I did get a possible job opportunity to go work in Japan at this all-girls middle school. It was middle school or high school, I don't remember. But I was shortlisted and of like to 2. So it was me and this older gentleman that they were really considering, and for some reason they really liked me. But they went with the older gentleman just because I didn't show enough excitement, and I wasn't asking a lot of questions about the school, about the classes I would teach, about life in Japan. I didn't show too much interest in it. So they're just like, you know what, we're gonna go with this guy. He's been really great and really interested in the position and really looking forward to it and showing motivation and his enthusiasm for it. So we're actually gonna go with him. So I said, okay, fine. South Korea was still number 1 at that point anyways for me, just because they only do yearly contracts, whereas the Japanese school that I may have, like, that was considering me was a 2-year contract. And I was a little iffy because I wasn't entirely sure if I would like it overseas, because it was going to be my first foray living by myself. Not only living by myself, but abroad. I mean, okay, I lived by myself when I was in university. That's a little different. But going halfway across the world to a completely different country where you don't really know the customs and there's a very big possibility of culture shock, I wanted something that only gave me a year contract. So I started the job search and I found my recruiter, and he was really great. He helped me with all of my paperwork, and it was just great. My first year, I was down south on the southern tip of South Korea, a place called Yosu. It was pretty interesting. I was at a middle school, and at one point in time, I was teaching all of the students in the school, so that was about 1,500 kids. But the biggest sheer dumb luck that I had with this job my first year was I had seven co-teachers, 7 Korean co-teachers. They all spoke English very well. On top of that, there were 3 or 4 other regular Korean teachers who spoke English as well. And so I had so many people to talk to, and I was really able to socialize with my coworkers. And it was a pretty decent environment. My principal also spoke English, and his wife was doing her master's in English literature or something like that. He actually got me to edit her master's thesis for her, because she wanted to basically make sure that it sounded well, like really good and fluent and flowing and everything like that. The only thing that kind of irked me, or not irked, I don't think, but was just kind of like, okay, fine, this is part of the job. We had a specific textbook, and I was not allowed to deviate from it. So I had 2 sections of a chapter. So there was like 4 sections for a chapter, and I was in charge of listening and speaking, because English teacher, helping Korean students speak English. So that was that. But I mean, I was not allowed to deviate from the textbook. I wasn't allowed to do extra games. I wasn't really allowed to show them videos of any sort, because the principal saw any and all type of video media as drama and dramas, like TV dramas. And if you know anything about the K-drama world, it's interesting. And I understand his viewpoint of why he didn't want me to show the kids anything like that, because I have reservations about that too. That's about K-dramas as well. But it went really well, and I mean, like, other than the fact that it was 3.5 hours by train to Seoul, and there wasn't really too much to do in the city, I guess, because it had 300,000. The population was 300,000, so it was pretty decently large, but it was so disconnected. Like, there were different sections of the city, and they were disconnected, and it took a while to get to places, especially where the other foreigners would meet up for drinks even during the week, or to get there on the weekends, and just to meet up anyways. So being 3.5 hours away from Seoul, and being a dancer how I am, like salsa, bachata, like all that. I was mainly into salsa dancing though, but to go up on the weekends to dance, and they love to salsa dance. They dance until 6:30 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, because that's when public transportation restarts, which was great and super fun. But to have to take a train every weekend to go up and dance, I mean, I guess 3.5 hours isn't the worst, but it would have been great to have something in the city that I lived in. So yeah. That's basically my first year summary and like what happened. I mean, I did pick Yosu as well, because that's actually where they held the World Expo in 2012. And so that was an amazing thing as well. I met so many great people, and a few of the people that I met I am still really great friends with, and one of my friends, I actually visited her when she lived in Brussels a couple of years ago, so that was super great and super awesome. And it was good because the country itself is relatively safe for foreigners, even especially females. I mean, their convenience stores are open 24/7. They have CCTV. Like, I still felt relatively safe walking in Seoul, the capital city, at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., going back to my hostel for the night to sleep for a couple hours or not sleep and just have breakfast and go. But I felt relatively safe there. And as I said, I had a pretty decent situation at my middle school. A bunch of the people that were in my intake group for the learning system, the language program, there we go, the language program that hired us. Some people in my intake group, they were not as lucky as I was. Some of them had also worked for Hagwons, and a bunch of my friends that I'm still friends with, who I met over there, were working in Hagwons. Those are after school programs that kids go to until midnight sometimes. And it's just, they didn't have, some of my friends didn't have the greatest times with their schools. They weren't as easygoing with them. My school, I knew how lucky I was because I did do my research anyways before I went over and before I even applied for schools, because I wanted to see what was better, because I had heard about Hagwons and I had heard about public schools. And I didn't know exactly which one I wanted to go to, but I do think public schools are a better bet, just in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, my school, I was very lucky, as I've said countless times in this video. I was very lucky with my first school, and I was very happy with 95% of the things that happened and that I had to deal with. I mean, if I could have moved my middle school closer to Seoul or into Seoul, oh, that would have been perfect. That was my ideal situation that I could have ever asked for. But yeah, that's my first year South Korea story. Like, comment, subscribe, ask me questions, put comments, tell me what other videos you want me to talk about. If you want me to talk about my second year that I did not complete. If you want me to talk about where I was able to travel while I was living in South Korea, that could be another video. What else? Peace out, Girl Scout. Catch you later.